Welcome to Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I'm Steve Foxcroft. Jocelyn Bamford is on assignment, and each week we introduce a new entrepreneur or expert in their field to tell their story. Today on the program, we are pleased to be joined by Louis Frapporti, partner in the prestigious law firm Gowling WLG. He is also owner of Trio Capital Group and Frapporti Inc. Lou, each year you're recognized as one of Canada's, it's a voted thing, one of Canada's best lawyers too. So we really appreciate you with your background joining us, and your career has been outstanding as well. But before we get to that, let's learn a little bit more about you and your upbringing and what brought you here today, really.
Delighted. Where can we start?
Let's start with your upbringing, family life, schooling, that kind of brothers, sisters, what kind of shaped you?
Well, I'm a proud Northerner, and by Northerner, I don't mean, as some Torontonians do, that I come from Collingwood. I was born and raised in Timmins, Ontario.
Okay.
And my parents and their families were immigrants from Italy, came over. In my father's family's case, in the early 1900s, my mother immigrated to Timmins in the early 1960s. And I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, having been raised there, coming down to the big city, London, Ontario, in 1982 to go to Western University.
Okay, so Western U was the school of choice. Did you have other schools that you were looking at?
No. At the time, a bunch of my friends were all going to Western. I had never really spent much time in any big city outside of Timmins, so London, Ontario was a metropolis to me.
Right.
And a whole bunch of us went down in the early 80s to do undergrad there, and I stayed at Western actually to do law school, graduating in the late 80s, and then started working in Toronto.
For a lot of people growing up, maybe it's at school or just otherwise, they have a mentor, someone that helped guide them and shape them. Do you have a mentor or maybe a couple?
I'm not sure that I really had a mentor. I had a teacher, I think like many people did in high school, that really shaped me, took an interest in me. I didn't have any older siblings, and neither of my parents graduated from high school. So that high school teacher who taught me history and English was also my basketball coach.
No way.
Yes, was
That's
somebody
good.
who took an enormous interest in me and really helped shape and guide me towards university. I think in the absence of that teacher, I'm not sure where I would have ended up, but that one person really helped form my interest in moving further in life. And you know, as I got into university, I'm not sure there was any individual that was particularly influential, but I was an avid consumer of biographies. And so I took a real interest in leaders from the past, sports heroes. I think we all had a few of those growing up. And I took a little bit from each of those folks, those idols, the individuals that I read about in you know, in my journey through my professional career.
And I think for me too, one of those things is at some point, a coach or something like that, a teacher, they're a good influence. And at some point, we all realize that even though we both maybe played basketball and thought that could be a living, but at some point it hits us where, I don't think this is going to be my path to putting food on the table. And
Yeah.
then you got to maybe lean on them a little bit to help point in the direction, in your case, law. And how was the schooling? Like when you were at Western, was that what you were wanting to be all along, is have it end up as a lawyer?
Well, first let me say, unlike your family, Steve, I never thought for a second I would make a living playing basketball. But in my case, I did a history and political science undergraduate degree and loved it, very much enjoyed that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to be. I'll have to admit, I didn't grow up thinking that I was going to be a lawyer. I don't think our family knew a lawyer outside of the person that sold our family home or made my father's will, I think. Probably never met a lawyer growing up. It seemed that the profession was so far removed from my daily life. But in going to university in undergrad, at the time, there was a TV show on called LA Law. And I
Right.
think for a lot of young people today who grew up watching Suits and decided they might kind of get into law as a consequence of that, for me, seeing that TV show was sort of a glimpse into another really glamorous world of cars and exciting and interesting people, and perhaps a decent living. And that was a bit of a motivation. Hardly, I think motivated by justice or anything of the type. It was just an interesting way to make a living, and I thought I would apply to law school as a consequence.
So
of that.
really, watching television, or not a sitcom in that case, but those drama
Right,
series,
right.
that's what triggered you to say, I want to be a lawyer.
Right, and
That's
and
crazy.
really an absence of anything else. When you're going to undergrad, and I'm looking ahead to history or a history degree, you could teach perhaps, but there were, to me at least, there didn't seem to be very many other options. So law school seemed to be a definable career path and something that might earn me a living. I didn't know much more than that.